Hey folks, welcome to episode 1. There's just something about Kansas City. It's a positive look at our town and our people, not just sports people, by the way, who have chosen to make this place home. Now, I said it's the first episode, right? It could be my last episode as well because of my first 2 guests on this podcast. The old Crunchtime crew is back together again. Bill Maas, Tim Grunhard, 2 of Kansas City Chiefs' greatest players. Don't get me fired. Right
What are you doing?
I don't
What
know.
are you? What is he doing?
Well, I think we're getting to that point now where he's going to start tearing up, and he's going to be a Ted Lasso thing, and we're going to the Diamond Dogs. Come on,
There it is.
come on.
Come on, Tim.
I don't know what the hell you guys are talking about.
Really?
No, I watched a couple episodes.
He was
of that.
always out in left field a little bit.
Yeah, always.
The
Always.
Diamond
Absolutely.
Dogs is real. That's cool, isn't it?
That is
That's
cool.
what I feel like when I'm with you guys.
That's a cool. Absolutely, we're back together.
Yeah.
Which I missed you guys.
We missed you, and we
That was a
didn't
lot of fun.
call it a best of, which is what we usually did in the morning.
Davey B.
On a Thursday morning,
Dave
especially.
Borchard, did you hear that? They haven't called one in yet today.
That's
but,
right.
But they will. They may leave before we get started here. But thanks for coming in. It's just, just to let everybody know, it's just a real positive outlook on our town. Our town now is like front
Blown
and
up.
center has blown up, and there's a lot of positivity. And I just think, just being positive about our city and why we live here and do all the things we do, how we got here, things they might not know about you two. No, we won't go there. But we'll go to the other things
They
they
know
might not
most of
know
everything.
about
Boy,
you.
Frank has changed. He's all about positive. Do you remember him being positive at all? We weren't.
No.
I don't either. Oh, it's positive. We're going to talk
No.
about positive things. Positive.
God, you guys suck
I'm positive.
today. What's wrong with you
I'm
guys?
positive that you were a big pain in my ass in 2000 when we started Crunchtime.
Negative
Exactly.
Nancy too,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
Oh, absolutely. I'll always accentuate
Bitter.
the negative.
It's just bitter.
I've turned over a new leaf. Hey, listen, all 3 of our wives are named Sarah.
I
Okay,
know.
so
And
we
all
have
3 of
that
them
in
are
common.
saints.
Yeah, they
They're
are.
all
Saint
saints.
Sarah's.
They're all saints, my friend. But let's get started. Let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about you two guys. Where you came from, how you got here. Billy, you're from Marple, Newtown.
Yeah.
Newtown Square, right
Yep.
down the street from Villanova,
Yeah.
and that was a big deal. You didn't play football, right? You didn't
No.
play football for a long time, did you?
No, my parents wouldn't let me. I had to beg them. I remember crying, begging them to let me play in 8th grade. And they didn't let me play. Like, all my friends were playing Pop Warner growing up, and my parents wouldn't let me play it. They said, you're going to get hurt. Well,
Your size? You couldn't have been
Yeah.
little
Well,
in 8th grade.
yeah, but I mean, they were just against it. We did all kinds of other stuff. I did all kinds of other sports. And the summers we were traveling down the Jersey Shore and doing things as kids. And football wasn't in the cards until I pleaded with them until they allowed it.
Yeah, life was good though.
Yeah.
Marple, Newtown Square.
Yeah, it's great.
Good deal
You know,
for
it's pretty amazing with today's technology and all the different avenues out there. But with Twitter, I'm in there. I'm looped in with my high school and the athletic department on everything, and it's pretty cool to just be a part of that through that, and
Yeah.
and still I have a awards for offensive and defensive linemen each year back at my high school, and yeah, it's really neat to being at this age and still have that connection.
Yeah, have that connection. I think too. And I think it's important too. You still have a lot of high school friends that are your friends.
Oh my
today?
gosh, yeah.
Oh,
And social media has been great with that
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
It makes it really easy.
Right.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you get to keep up with everybody's lives. You know what's going on. So
Yeah.
it makes it a lot more accessible to keep a friendship long distance like that.
What about siblings for you?
So my older sister, she's unbelievable. She's head of pediatrics in a hospital over in Philadelphia. We're really close. We talk all the time. Her birthday's actually coming up here the 16th, June 16th. So I'm going to have to get out to make sure I give her a call and talk to her. My younger brother, he's got 2 kids, and he's out with his wife, and they kind of do their own thing. But we're brothers, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean,
Right.
you're always going to have that, but you're still brothers.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's cool.
Was he tough? Were you tough on him?
I think so.
Beat him up a little bit.
But yeah, but we
Put him in his
we were
place.
2 years apart, but we did like everything together. So yeah, it was kind of like that love-hate kind of deal that you have with a brother
Yeah. Did he play football too?
in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that was it.
Yeah.
That was it for him. Decided to go not bang heads after that?
Yeah, he's doing his other stuff. He would have liked to. He would have liked to have caught on someplace, but didn't have the opportunity.
Yeah, all right. Timmy, Chicago, son of a police officer. I'll bet he was a little tough.
Yeah, he was
on
tough.
you and your brother.
Violent crime detective. Worked midnights. Worked from 11 o'clock at night to 7 in the morning, and then I'd be driving to work, and he'd be with his buddies over at the tavern.
Okay.
Because that was their evening, so they'd go from like 8 o'clock in the morning till 11, and then he would sleep, and we'd come home, and he'd coach our baseball and basketball and football teams, and then we'd have dinner together to go to bed. That was our lives, But yeah, very, very tough guy, a stern man, not the nicest person in the world, but loved you. You knew he loved you. But boy, it was there was times when you're like, "Oops, is Dad working?" Thank
Isn't
God.
that funny?
Thank God.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
I mean, you can talk about that. My father was a World War II sergeant. And what kind of life was that? Then I get Jackie Sherrill as a head coach.
That's right.
I mean, one of Bear Bryant's 13. What kind of life was that?
Yeah, and and it kind of shaped both of us, our personalities. I think we're both pleasers. Both people are driven, goal orientated, and probably screwed us up a little bit too. Well, I know it did.
I think absolutely.
Yeah. So, but you know what? Like you said, we married great people, and they've been able to take care of us and understand us and put us in good positions, and that's why we're here. Because
Frank and I would
guarantee
like to
you,
congratulate you because you did it right the first time. We all found the great Sarahs.
I was too scared to get divorced.
Yeah, right. There
She would have killed me.
Exactly right.
No, we had a great life here in Kansas City. And we'll talk about that here in a minute.
we will.
But yeah, being from Chicago, south side of Chicago, bunch of cops, kids, firemen, kids, city workers had to live in the city. So it was just a conglomerate of city workers. All the dads were the same. There was no equal justice. They all beat us. If we screwed up, my buddy's dad would kick our ass too. So I mean, it's just kind of the way it was. And my parents were like, hey, if you see Timmy doing something wrong, go ahead and take care of it, and they did. So, but it made me the person that I am today.
Yeah,
good,
sure.
bad, or indifferent. But that's what your foundation is built on, and from that foundation, I've changed things and tweaked things just like Bill has. I follow Bill on social media and Facebook, and I tell you, it gives me puts a tear in my eye every time I see him holding his grandson, and it's so awesome. And I'm looking forward to those days. But boy, oh boy, the foundation of stuff that was built, and we've been able to raise our kids. And I know little Billy and your daughter, and I'm drawing a blank.
Frankie.
How could you
And
mess that
Frankie, I don't know why I forgot that name.
Hey, listen, one of you, it's Frankie or Billy.
I try to forget it sometimes.
I got a lot more to forget than you do. Okay.
But the way we raised our kids is a lot different than the way we were raised, and the kids have turned out great, and so we're just real happy with that.
Yeah, I still think we're disciplinarians a little bit. Maybe not as much as because I worked at night, so it was hard. By the time I saw the kids, it was the next morning, and everything had blown over. By that time, I'm getting a phone call 3 minutes before news stop. Hey, Gary, Lisa.
Wait till Dad gets home. When Dad doesn't get home to it, they're all in bed and asleep.
Yeah, and they know they're golden. Dad won't be home till midnight.
Yeah,
so I'm not.
I see Dad on TV. He's not coming home now.
Is that live? Is that live? What they're doing there? Okay, high school football. St. Lawrence, of course, Marple, Newtown. We talked about that. Talk a little bit about the recruiting process as we go, or high school in general. What was it?
Well,
I know you went to Catholic school. You went to a public school.
Yeah, I went to a Catholic school. Played just about every sport every season. Played football. Did indoor track. Shot put.
You didn't play basketball.
He
No, I
did.
didn't play basketball. I wrestled.
Okay.
And then played
That's always
baseball.
good for you.
Baseball was my first love.
Yeah.
Loved baseball.
I did too.
You and your brother.
Right. My
Both
brother
of
was a very good baseball player. Got a scholarship to Northwestern. Was drafted by the Angels. Played for the Angels and the A's. Never quite made it up all the way up to AAA. I think he had a cup of coffee in September one year. He's kind of Moonlight Graham of the deal where he got brought up and never got at a bat.
That's
so
right.
yeah, he's probably wandering around the South Side somewhere in the middle of the night. Which, knowing my brother, he probably is. But I loved baseball. But one of the reasons why I decided to play football, I was drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates. back then they had
I
100,
didn't know that.
100
Your
rounds.
brother was. I didn't know you got
Yeah,
drafted
got drafted by
Pirates.
Pittsburgh out of high school, and
Missed that on your bio.
yeah, I mean, it was 70th round or something, but it was still, I was under the property of if I wanted to play baseball. But
See, you could end up in Pittsburgh too, Bill.
yeah,
Right.
but I didn't play baseball because my brother played baseball, and I was just tired of following his footsteps. He was 4 years older. I went to high school. He was going to college, and always being kind of compared to him. He was smarter than I was, better looking than I was, a better athlete. So it made it a little bit harder, But once again, part of what made Bill and I the people we are is, we strive to be great, strive to be excellent, and try to break that mold, and that's I'm very thankful to have a brother. But like your brother, we talk, but we're not that close, and
Right.
And I blame that on my dad. Really, my dad. The competition was everything
Did
for
he
my father.
did
Oh
he
my
pit
gosh,
you against one another?
all the time. Everything was competition, and it worked for him. It worked for us. He had 2 Division I athletes, scholarship athletes,
Yeah.
2 professional athletes, but we don't like each other that much anymore. So there you go.
Hey, Tim, when you get to be my age, you'll bury that hatchet eventually. Okay?
Yeah,
So
well,
I wouldn't worry about it too much.
either bury the hatchet or bury one of us.
Yeah,
one of the two.
One of the two.
But-
Yeah, you got it.
But no, so it just is what it is. We both it's a complicated relationship, but I love my brother and he loves me, and he just lost my father-in-law, and
Yes.
he texted me and said, "Hey, sorry about it," which was very nice and happy about that. So, listen, life throws curveballs at us, and we have our families and we do things, and we try to make the best of it.
Yeah. And Bill, high school for you? You got in
Yeah.
late at football, but I
Yeah.
think you probably took to it pretty quickly, didn't you?
Yeah, it was great experiences, actually. All of high school was just a great time. I look back and I just, it was just pure, right?
Oh.
And
Well,
then,
I wouldn't call it exactly pure, but go ahead, Bill.
well, maybe
I know what you mean.
maybe a couple keg parties in the
I
woods
know
someplace.
what
but
you mean.
it was just it's a time you reflect back on your life and you just say, how innocent and how
Yes.
fun it was, and you think but you don't know crap,
Mm-hmm.
and you're just growing up. So, and you look back on that and you see the stages of life that you go through. It's just fun to remember that stepping stone, that part of your
Yeah.
life, that time frame.
How good were your teams?
Oh, terrible. Yeah. No, we were terrible. My senior year, we were 1-9-1, and
So senior year?
yeah.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, and but I got to play in all the All-Star games, the Big 33.
The Big 33
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania, that's the
that's huge.
Pennsylvania All-Stars versus the Texas All-Stars. Or
Ohio.
it was the
Ohio.
Ohio. You did the Ohio one, yeah. When I was there, it was Western
it?
Pennsylvania against Texas.
Wow.
And then it became Eastern Pennsylvania against Western Pennsylvania, and then it became Pennsylvania against Ohio, yeah.
Yeah, and but
It's a high school All-Star.
Recruiting was fun. First time I went on an airplane ride in my life, I was on a recruiting trip.
Yeah.
By yourself. That was cool stuff, and the process of going through all that too, recruiting. I look back, it was monumental.
Yeah.
You remember, you make those choices where you're going to go. You're leaving your family, what you've known for 18 years of your life, and you're going someplace you've never been before.
Yeah.
It's
See
kind of
people you
exciting.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And despite the fact the coaches what's going to happen when you get there and you start playing football, you sort of have an idea of, even though they sweet talk you the whole time because they're trying to get you to go to their school. Who else besides University of Pittsburgh, where you ended up with Jackie Sherrill as a terrific head coach, but where else were you thinking?
So I had gotten letters from everywhere: Arizona State, Michigan, Ohio State.
Despite the fact your team was 1-9.
Florida State. They all wanted me to
Think about
come
that, yeah.
for recruiting trips, and I just said I made a decision. I'm going to go 5 hours driving time, regardless,
so
whether it can
everybody
be
gets to see a
Syracuse, whether it can be Temple, Penn State, or Pittsburgh. I was going to keep it in there. And so that's what I did when I narrowed it down, just so my family could be able to come see me, and it wouldn't be too far for me to get home if I needed to get home. So, and Pittsburgh was just on a roll then. In '76, they won a national championship with Tony Dorsett, and then they got Marino the year before I got there, and he helped recruit me. And then it was just a plethora of young 18-year-olds that half of them are in the NFL Hall of Fame now.
Yeah, right. You had a bunch of guys on that team that were really good players. Yeah, Timmy, I know you have a great recruit. What was high school like, first of all?
Yeah, high school, I was just one of about 5 or 6 guys on the team. I wasn't one of the better players. We had 6 guys get Division I scholarships out of my high school, and a couple went to Notre Dame. One went to Arizona State. One went to Notre Dame, then decided after 1 year to go to Michigan State. So we had a bunch of Division I guys, and I always wanted to go to Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame was the team in the south side of Chicago. I mean, there was only 2 teams. It was Chicago Bears and Notre Dame. And Jerry Faust was not recruiting me at Notre Dame. He recruited all the other guys. So I was a little bit jealous. You know,
No, you were pissed.
I was pissed and jealous. And it was hurt. So I was recruited and offered by, went down to Texas, which I was the only guy from north of the Mason-Dixon line down there. And I said, I'm from Chicago, and they looked at me like I was crazy, like it was like a different planet. So I didn't go there.
It was.
I went to South Carolina on a visit, which I loved. Man, it was a blast. But I knew if I went there, I would have been dead in 2 years. So there was no way I would have lived. Literally.
I want to hear about this recruiting trip.
So do I.
Yeah, literally.
About that one.
They had a place called the Roost, which was their student housing for the athletes. And wow, I want to talk about Animal House. A lot of fun there. And took a visit to Missouri. Took a visit to Kansas. I grew up. My dad said nothing good happens in the summer in the city, so he took his month furlough, they called it then, and we went down to Lake of the Ozarks. So I said, I kind of like that area. I want to look at Missouri, and then Kansas offered me, and a buddy of mine was going to go on a visit there. And I often tell people, and I had an opportunity to coach at Kansas and go out and recruit. I sat with the head coach. It was Bob Valicenti.
Yeah.
Was the coach.
Yeah.
I sat down you're Bob Valicenti, and he said, Tim, I'll tell you one thing. You're our number 1 recruit. And at that point, I said, this place is going to suck. I said, if I'm your number 1 recruit, you're in big trouble. A 6 foot, 2.5 fat kid from the south side of Chicago is your number 1 recruit. You guys are in big trouble. So I learned never tell somebody you're the number 1 recruit, because then they may be thinking, oh my God, we're really in trouble here. So, but Lou Holtz offered me a scholarship at Minnesota.
That's when he was in Minnesota.
And when he came over in December, he called me and said, hey, we'd like you to come take an official visit. We're not going to offer you yet. We just want to meet you and talk to you. I liked you at Minnesota. Not sure you fit at Notre Dame, but we want you to come with your parents. And after the weekend was over, they offered me a scholarship. I was the last guy offered a scholarship. Kind of like you, Pudgy, your story. I'm sure you'll get in your story someday about how it was between you and a running back from New Jersey.
From Maryland.
Maryland.
Yeah.
So I was the last one offered and decided right away, I was still like, if you didn't want me originally, then why, so my dad's like, listen, you're going to Notre Dame. All right? Simple as that. No chips on your shoulder. You're going to Notre Dame. So remember calling Lou Holtz, and Bill, you'll love this. I called Lou, and he's like, this is Lou Holtz. I said, Lou, this is Tim Grunhard. He goes, how you doing, Tim? I'd like to let you know that I'm going to commit to going to the University of Notre Dame. Okay, we'll have somebody give you a call. Goodbye. I was like, hey, that guy doesn't want me.
Yeah, right.
It was
literally like that. All right, we'll have somebody in touch with you.
Where's the deal from Kansas? You're the number 1 recruit.
Yeah, I wasn't. I knew I was in the right place when I was the last recruit. I knew I was in the right place. So going through the recruiting process, I hated recruiting. I hated it. I'm the opposite of Bill. I didn't like going on the planes. I didn't like going and I just didn't like it. It was kind of a tedious process for me. It's kind of a homebody. Very, when you grow up in a city, and you guys grew up fairly close to most of your friends. Most of your friends, they don't leave. They don't go anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, they're all there.
If they move a block and a half away from their house, that's a big move.
They're still there.
So that was kind of my mentality. I was like, well, I'm going to go where? South Carolina? Is that south side of Chicago? I mean, is that south of? I mean, the only comparison was one was South Carolina, one was south side of Chicago. That was it. Yeah. And just didn't feel comfortable at all. And Luckily,
Except
Notre
at
Dame
the
was
South Carolina, you felt pretty comfortable there.
Yeah, well, for a lot of different reasons. But going to Notre Dame was perfect because it was 90 minutes away from me, and it was able to go back and forth. So, but I wasn't a big into the recruiting process. But I was, so glad that Notre Dame finally came around.
Yeah, college, University of Pittsburgh, Jackie Sherrill, Dan Marino's playing quarterback, ex-Central Catholic high school grad, by the way.
Your high school.
And that was a pretty good role for you with that group.
Yeah, it was fun right from the get go. We're dominant in the Big East. We went to four big bowl games when I played there my career, and we're in contention for the national championship in 3 of the 4 years there. And the guys. It was funny because looking back, we were all like 18, 19 years old, and when you're talking about the likes of Jimbo Covert and Bill Fralick and Chris Dolman and it's just we were just Hugh Green, Ricky Jackson, we
Hall of Famers,
Mark May. We were stacked with talent, and we didn't know it. We're 18, 19. We're looking for quarter drafts down at the Keg, wooden keg.
That's a wooden keg, right next to the original.
Yes,
the original hot
right
dog.
next to the O.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
the big O.
and so you really didn't. We didn't know, and then 6 years later, we're all in Hawaii at a Pro Bowl. Mm-hmm. It's like this is crazy.
It's just crazy. Yeah. But that was a good football team. Yeah, with all those guys. And so then all of a sudden you come up at your senior year. You're playing with all these guys. When was your first indication that it was you were going to end up in Kansas City? Did you want to play for the Steelers? Did you want to play for the Eagles? Did y'all have a preference? I'm sure Tim, we'll talk to him, maybe wanted to play for the Bears. The whole thing. What was your thought process going into the NFL draft? And did you realize you're going to get drafted that high, number 4 overall?
Yeah. So after my junior year, the activity really picked up. I started getting all these phone calls, agents, and because they have their list of players and the teams, coaches, and scouts. So the senior year was really filled with that. The whole fall was filled with that. And I went and I did all the things that I thought you were supposed to do at the time. I went and played in the Senior Bowl. I went and played in the East-West Shrine game, and where all the coaches and scouts go. And I wanted to show that I'm going to work and do this and that. Well, Philadelphia had the number 4 pick. San Diego had the number 6 pick, and they both told me they were taking me. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm either going to be back home in Philadelphia or I'm going to be in a beach in San Diego.
Perfect. Just like the Jersey Shore, right? I'm back.
Yeah, this isn't bad. Kansas City was stuck in the middle at 5, and I never heard from them. They never nothing until the week of the draft. My coach called me up and said, "Hey, Kansas City's up here. They got somebody's up here that they want to visit with you. They've got the 5 pick. They passed on Marino last year.
Yeah.
I don't think they want it.
I'll tell you a story about that in a minute.
They want to make sure that they come back and University of Pittsburgh and talk to you. So I had to walk up Cardiac Hill, and
up the hill by the hospitals.
I'm mad. I'm like, oh, come on. What haven't I done? I've done all this stuff in the week of the draft.
Just let people know, Pitt Stadium's set up on top of a hill, and Pittsburgh's full of hills. And this hill was called Cardiac Hill. All the hospitals were right there for good reason. Anybody trying to walk up would have easy access to a hospital when they had a heart attack. But the players always had to go and walk from their dorm, which was right down on Fifth Avenue, and then walk up the hill to Pitt Stadium. They did not play at Three Rivers or at where they're playing now.
And that hill was tough. So I walk up the hill, I trudge up there, and it's not a coach, it's not a general manager, it's a sports psychologist guy, and he wants me to take a test. The week of the draft. No, you knew this, right?
Yeah, no.
The week of the draft is sports psychiatrist guy, and he wants me to take a personality test.
He was sent from the Chiefs?
John Malkovich.
Oh, gosh.
Okay?
Yes. Okay.
So listen to this.
Yeah.
So I'm just like beside myself, mad right now.
Yeah.
So I'll take your test. I took this test. Every blatant wrong answer you could imagine, I marked, thinking, oh, these guys are going to think I'm a loon tune, and there's no way they're drafting me. They say, I'm taking you 5th overall, and you're playing nose tackle. It backfired on me.
I know, killed you. They love the answers. They say he's crazy.
That's like
he's on the defensive line. We'll
Play nose tackle.
Yeah, you know that you passed the test because you did that to the test.
That's exactly right.
It was like the goalie for the U.S. hockey team in 1980 was his name Craig. Remember, he said, "I'm not taking this test." He goes,
right.
Well, one of the reasons why I put you on this team because I knew you wouldn't take the test.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
It was
I didn't know that.
reverse psychology.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
won.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And that Jim Schaaf was the GM,
Yeah,
right? Correct? And John Makovic was the head coach. Now, the other connection you had with John Makovic, didn't he try to recruit you to Wake Forest when he was at Wake Forest, which was a year or two before, right?
Yeah, he did.
I'm sorry. It was back when you were in high school. It was about 2
And
or
I
4
played
years
tight
earlier.
end in high school and outside linebacker, and so he wanted me to be his tight end.
Yeah.
And he was the only coach that recruited me to play offense. Everybody else wanted me to play defense, which was interesting. But yeah, he remembered, and we talked about that when I came here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just to talk about the Marino thing, we'll talk about Timmy here in a second. So it's the year Marino's coming out. Marino and Blackledge are coming out with all those other quarterbacks.
Elway.
All those guys are coming out at the same time. And they knew they weren't going to get excellent. Elway was saying, I'm going to go play baseball if I don't get drafted by the right team, right? So I'm in, and we had a little show. It was called the John Makovic Show on Channel 4. So every week I was in with the coach, and I got to know him really well. I liked John Makovic.
Good guy.
I really liked the guy, right? So we were in there, we're doing a show, and we got done with the show one day, and I said, hey, you guys look like you're probably looking at a quarterback. And I said, East Central Catholic and the whole thing. I said, I know you might be looking at Blackledge, nice kid, good guy, smart, whatever. But I said, you'll never get anybody better than Dan Marino. I said, he's got it. Well, there's some question marks about him. I said, you'll never get anybody as good as Dan Marino, coach. Just take it from me. I'm just telling you now. He came back to me. I saw him. It might have been 10 years
He tried to hire you
or whatever. And he came up to me and said, I know what you're going to say. I should have taken Marino. I said, I know, coach, you're right, but he didn't do it. What about you, Tim? I know your draft story is funny because you really thought you were going somewhere else.
I did, and I was kind of stuck in a weird position too because I played guard in college, and teams wanted me at guard and some wanted at center. So when the
Did
initial,
you care?
No, I mean I really didn't. I just wanted to play in the NFL.
Okay.
That was always my dream, and like
Joe Moore.
Yeah, Joe Moore was the
Joe Moore
coach.
sold him. Joe Moore's the one that sold him.
Joe did. God, what a great man! What a great man! But so. So if you looked at the rankings, I did pretty good in the combine, but I had great film. We won the national championship my junior year and senior year. I had a All-America type of year, but nobody was quite sure what I was.
Still.
Yeah, it's true. I was ranked like 7th or 8th guard and like 4th or 5th center, and Bill knew he was going to go in the first round. I thought most of the predictions were 5th, 6th, 7th round. So, I was happy with, listen, I'm going to go there. It's kind of where offensive linemen usually kind of slide in anyways. So I took a visit to the 49ers and Bob McKittrick. Remember Bob?
Yeah.
Great man. So I walk in and I'm with Sims, who was a first-round draft choice. I think he went to Miami.
Yeah.
A big tackle, I can't remember his name. He ended up getting first-round draft choice too, and it was me and another guy, and I was like, well, God, I'm with these guys are first-round draft choice. They must be just saying, hey,
first round.
Well, that's what happened. So I'm sitting with Bob McKittrick, and Bob says, listen, these other guys here, I don't like them. You're a first-round draft choice, just to let you know that. And I looked at him. I mean, my expression must have been like, what the hell are you talking about?
Hey, Bill, he didn't take the psychological test.
No, I didn't take the psychological test.
It'd have been in the first round.
So then I met with Bob Seifert, who was the head coach, and Bob said the same thing. We're in first round, and so I went back to South Bend and told Sarah, I said, listen, I'm going to draft in the first round with the 49ers. She's like, she wasn't too happy. She's like, hey, you go to the 49ers.
Bill, okay, I'll marry you then.
Yeah. No, she was like, I'm going to Chicago. You're going to San Francisco. This is not going to work. And, so the day of the draft, to get a call from the 49ers. They said, I just want to make sure that this is your number. And we're going to take you in the first round, last pick in the first round. The pick comes up, wide receiver from Florida State, Dexter Carter. I'm like, well, hell. So I get a call right away. It's Bob McKittrick. They go, listen, they wanted this guy. They know he's going to be there, but we're definitely taking the second round. I said, Bob, whatever, man. I'm just happy to be in the NFL, happy to get drafted. And about an hour later, I get a call from the Kansas City Chiefs. Never heard from the Kansas City Chiefs either. Never heard a word from them. You know, it was Tampa, Washington, some other, the 49ers, obviously. But never heard from the Chiefs. And the next day I was on a flight here. I got picked up by a red coater and went to the luncheon and walked around with Carl Peterson and looked around the stadium. And that was the rest is history. Yeah, but mine was a weird deal. So came in, and I still wasn't quite sure what position I was going to play.
We take Percy that round?
Percy was in the first round, and that was in the second round.
That's Percy
40th
Snow.
pick.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting at my locker for minicamp, and I'm sitting right next to Jonathan Hayes, and here comes Howard Mudd walking over, spinning a football. And he says, "Hey, you're going to be playing center today." So I'm like, "Oh my God, I got to go against Bill Maas. Never played center before, right?" In minicamp.
You already know about Billy because
I
he's
know.
drafted a bunch of years before you.
Jonathan Hayes and Jay Hayes. Jay Hayes is like was my coach at Notre Dame, and Jonathan. And of course, the first thing when I get drafted, they go, "Let me put you on the phone with my brothers." Jonathan's like, "You're gonna have your hands full with Bill Maas." I'm like, "Oh God, that's all I need, right?" So we could tell a story about that a little bit later, but. So I get there, and he throws me the football. He says, "You're going to be playing center today." I said, "Okay." So he goes, "Go over and snap a couple to DeBerg."
Steve DeBerg.
And he walks away, and I'm looking around. I go, "Who's DeBerg?" I don't know how DeBerg was. So I said, "Jonathan, which one's DeBerg?" He goes, "You dumb rookie, the guy laying over there on the ground." I thought he was an assistant coach
With a towel on his face.
Yeah, assistant coach
looked like
hung
he
over,
was 45.
Yeah, so I walk over and I say, what do I call him, Bergie? Do I call him Steve? I call Mr. DeBerg. I mean, literally, he was 35 years old. I was at like 20. So I mean, so I said, Howard wants me to take a couple snaps. So he's getting up, and it's just creaking and sounds that I've never heard before coming out of a body. And he gets up and would take one snap. He goes, "You're good." And I'm like, "All right, here we go." But I was lucky I had Mike Webster as my mentor.
Yeah, right.
And
That's right.
he just took me under his wing.
Yeah.
And, did an unbelievable job. He said, "Listen, first thing you do is communicate, run in the line of scrimmage every play, and finish every play. And if you do all those things, you're going to have half a chance."
Yeah.
So the rest is history, yeah.
Yeah, the rest is history. Most people know a lot about both of your professional careers. Our deal was, when we finally got together, I know Crunchtime's 2001.
Yeah.
But way before that, Bill's playing in John Hart. You remember John Hart from K1 102, right? Mm-hmm. And their building was right next to our building at Channel 4 on Signal Hill. So Hart calls me one day and says, "Hey, it's football season, and I got Bill Maas coming in to do a show once a week, right? Mm-hmm. I think it was Tuesdays. Yeah. Was it Tuesdays? It was Tuesdays. He said, "I got him coming in." He says, "I don't know a damn thing about sports." I said, just have fun with it and do it. He goes, no, I need you, and you got to come down here and do this. I said, "What time are you doing?" He said, "Well, we're going to do it at 7:00. And I said, "Okay." So I got off the news at 6:30 and went over one day, and I thought, "Okay, John, I'll help you today." And then
This is PM, right?
This is
There's
PM.
no way Bill was kept 7
No,
a.m.
Bill was just going to bed in those days at 7 a.m., okay? But so John Hart called me, and then the rest is sort of history. We started doing that show, and that show ended up morphing into the
101.
Right.
On 101 to Fox, right?
101 to Fox, and then, we kept going from there. When did we end up at the Levee?
We were at the Levee.
Is it like 89, 90?
Was
90,
that before Timmy?
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I was here. But I wasn't on the show. It was you two.
Yeah, right. It was
I think you did it like
and
90 was your first
90,
year.
91, 92. I left in 93, and then
93.
that's what I told you guys got together.
Yeah, right. The deal was, and it was before, this was the original deal where somebody would let you do radio.
Yeah.
I mean, this was
You can't do
this
this
was
stuff
right
now.
at the beginning of Marty and Carl, right?
Yep.
They wanted you to get out in the community,
Right.
And we got into that, and that's how that all started. That's how we got together at that point. So
And Bill told me, "Hey, listen, you come on down here. I'll give you, a couple free beers and a hot dog." and I was like, "I'm there. I'm sold." So I was like the Ed McMahon. I was like on every other show, like the laugh track guy, So I'd go down, hang out with Bill down there, and got to meet you down there. And then and then when Bill left, it was just kind of a natural transition.
yeah,
over.
it was just us at that point. But we did that for a few years before we then. Before we transitioned over and ended up doing radio after you guys had both retired from football. But that was an interesting time because the way you look at it now and the way things happen now, where they bring guys to you, you can't go in the locker room much anymore, and it's totally different now. And those guys aren't in the streets anymore. They aren't out there. They aren't doing shows like this. Derek Thomas did one. He and Neil Smith did a show too. So.
Well, I learned from Bill, watching Bill, and a lot of things I've learned from Bill. Some good, some bad, but I learned a lot of things from Bill. One of the things I always noticed is, after losses, Bill Maas was always there answering the media.
Yes, always.
And I said, that's pretty cool. And other guys would be shouting. And my dad used to talk about ants and cockroaches, right? You flip the light on, the cockroaches are in the room scatter. The ants stay in a line. They stay their business. They stay about doing their business. They don't hide. They keep on working. And we had a lot of cockroaches. That when you won, everybody wanted to be in front of the cameras. I watched Bill Maas. I watched how he would answer questions, and everybody would gravitate over to him because he had a good opinion and he knew how to articulate, and he was consistent. And then so after loss, I was like, you know what, that's the way I want to be.
Yeah, right.
And that's why I learned from him too. But the media savvy, and went on, obviously did a wonderful job doing media and doing TV and everything else. But the reality is that you stand up. When you win, it's easy to face the cameras.
Yeah,
but when you lose, it's not. And that's what true leadership is. And we're seeing a little bit of that right now. Look in Buffalo. The problem with Buffalo is that their leaders are selfish guys.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the problem. I mean, Kansas City, we're lucky we have Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. Those both guys are not unselfish people. But when your leaders are selfish, and that's one of the reasons why in the 90s our teams became the teams that they were, because we had leadership with Bill Maas and Jonathan Hayes and Steve DeBerg at the time, that they weren't selfish guys, and that filtered down. Yeah. But there were times, Bill, and you've been in locker rooms too. Well, you can have a good year with a bunch of great leaders, and then all of a sudden you get a bunch of scumbums coming in there, and it ruins everything.
Yeah, it deteriorated towards the end too. Bill, you were done by that time. At the end of Marty and Carl, basically, they started to grab. They started to go out and grab people maybe that just weren't right.
Reached a little bit too far,
just trying to get over that hump because they'd been so close, and they just never had really drafted it and developed a quarterback. And Carl, first one, will say it's the biggest mistake we made. We just, in those days too, it's funny because you look around now, it was all about the running game back then. It's all about handing a ball off to, big running backs and let them pound the line and gain 3 or 4 yards and, take 20 plays to score a touchdown or kick a field goal. Whereas today, 3 plays later, you're in the end zone. They're throwing the ball all over the place. And running backs are devalued. And that's what all the running backs are. They're thinking about joining their own union because nobody is valuing them and they're not making any money. But the deal was you guys were always front and center. And part of that was because you did the radio shows. Yeah. I mean, you knew, we're out here in the public all the time. What are we going to do? Duck Frank Boal here in the locker room after we lose a game? That wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah, so it was that was an interesting part of that.
One of the things that used to aggravate a lot of people too, Bill, is Frank would, a lot of guys would be afraid to come over and ask you a question. Frank come over and ask a question, and then all of a sudden, he's called like the buzzards. All the buzzards come over, and then
the dead carcass.
Yeah, there's all these different microphones.
all the other reporters.
And I would say I'd answer every question with Frank in it like 3 or 4 times, so they couldn't use it. And then they're finally like, "You got to stop doing that." I said, "No, I don't. I don't have to stop doing anything."
I'm not stopping.
I'm not stopping.
How are you guys? Memories, just stories about your playing days. Besides, wins and losses. You guys had locker rooms that were way different than locker rooms are today. You had some characters inside the locker room.
Bill, you gonna tell them how you used to christen the hot tub every year?
We'll leave that to your imagination. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
He had to be the first one in the locker room, and he'd have
There's a reason it was cloudy.
There's a little foam on the top. I love that. You didn't spend a whole lot of time in a hot tub, though. Did you? Yeah. And if they threw you the ice bath was fine. The ice bath was just fine.
Yeah. No, as far as the memories go on the thing,
is it more teammates and friendships and that sort of thing, right?
You go around and you see different players from different teams in the past, or you're at a function and you see guys, and I'm amazed at the guys that can tell stories in detail and remember stuff about the games. I don't remember anything about the games. I don't. I mean, some of the bigger games that we won when we got in the playoffs and things like that, you remember. But for the most part, the year was just kind of a blur because you're just going at such a high rate every day. I mean, from early in the morning till you're done at night and you're tired to the games to hurt and injured and getting ready. I mean, it's just a constant process. And, you know, I'm just amazed at the guys who, I remember in detail this and there's this play and that. I'm like, wow. I can't. I don't remember those things. People will tell me, I remember you did this one time. I'm like, I did? I don't, you know, I just
On
don't.
or off the field.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. No, he remembers those. It's a football he doesn't remember.
So, but yeah, the thing I look back on and take is just the friendships.
Yeah,
that's the deal.
It's probably the thing you end up missing the most too once you're out, right?
You know, and losing brings you closer together than winning does. Winning's great. I mean, everybody will pound a win, right?
No, sure.
And feel great about themselves. But the winning was, I think, where a lot of the bonding was really because you put so much into it to collectively together, and bad outcome, and those things hurt.
Yeah, I remember the one time I got you in trouble. You remember? We should do that little thing.
One time, Frank?
I think it was just one. It's the only one I remember, Bill. I have a cloudy memory myself, okay? The time, was it you're going to play the Falcons? It was. You're
throw the helmet on the field?
Really bad.
That was awesome.
And I go, Bill, what do you think about this game? What's going to happen? And you say,
well, it was a long answer because we were supposed to get some monsoon rain in there.
Yes,
remember?
right.
Remember?
Right. But Bill, I cut all that out.
I know you
wanted to
did.
get to the good stuff.
I know you did. And I said, look, they're last in the league in rushing, they're last in the league on third downs, or this and that. I mean, we're going to have a monsoon rain, and if all this occurs, we'll just throw our helmets out there, we'll win.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh God, how much hell did you catch after that?
Well, I didn't think anything about it until I was down in the locker room early in the morning, and someone summons me that Marty wants to see in his office.
I remember those days. I got called in one time on a day off.
For
that was for on the radio show when I said that if we hurt Elway, that Marty'd pay the fines.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That is absolutely right.
That was another radio mishap.
Frank led me into that one too.
I led him into that one. That was a good deal.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Well, then we'll jump.
It
ahead.
made good radio, though.
It made great
radio.
radio.
We had to make a decision whether to sacrifice ourselves in the locker room or to promote ourselves in the radio. Well, I guess we decided at that point to promote ourselves in the radio.
Exactly.
And made good shows.
They were terrific shows. Okay, so you both get done playing. Okay, not at the same time, obviously, but you both get done playing. What is the one thing you would tell that guy when he's that week after he's done playing or a month after he's done playing? If you could go back and tell that guy one thing that you'd like to relate to that guy at that time. It's like going back and telling your 22-year-old self something, but this is going back to tell your 32-year-old.
I think there's still. I mean, they're better at it now with a lot of support. But I would tell that 22-year-old me, this is going to end sometime, and you need to know it's going to end sometime.
Be ready,
because I never thought it was going to be end.
No.
I mean, I never thought and said like, well, it's going to end next year, or you don't know when it's going to end. And if you don't keep that in focus, and a lot of playing football, for me anyhow, for professional football, is you have to eliminate all that doubt. You have to eliminate injury out of your mind. You have to eliminate. For me anyhow. That's the only way I could play good. If you don't think about those things. But there was no counseling. There was no. They didn't have this. What PTSD?
You needed that psychologist you had going into Pitt, see?
Right. But when you walk out that door at the end,
you're gone, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're just like goodbye.
And there's nothing there. There's no support system there.
Right.
And you're in your 30s, and your high school buddies have now established themselves for 12, 15 years in a career.
Right.
And you're sitting there going, huh? What? Now, and a lot of that just, I mean, fortunately, I was broadcasting and when slid right into that. And so that was, there for me. But there's still that empty feeling of when you're out the door. I don't know. That's how it was for me.
Yeah. And so when you got out, when we did a lot of stuff together and you did a lot of media stuff, that was just a natural flow for you to try to go get the play-by-play jobs and do all that sort of thing, right? Stay in the media somewhere, somehow.
Right.
You felt comfortable doing that, right?
Right. And I enjoyed the games, and I got to travel and cover them. So
yeah.
But, there's an off season.
Oh, right? Sure there is, yeah.
What are you doing? What do you want to do? I think that was, for me anyhow, that was a big deal.
Yeah. And Tim, for you went out and started coaching for all practical purposes.
Yeah. So for me, I would tell my 22-year-old Grunny, I probably wouldn't talk to. But about the 31-year-old one, I'd like to have a long conversation with. But, I think part of the problem is, Frank and Bill, you can touch on this too. The adrenaline rush of going down that tunnel in front of 80,000 people, whether they love you or hate you, it's still that adrenaline rush. And it's like a drug.
Yeah.
I mean, you need it. You feed off of it. That's who you are. That's what you are. When you look in the mirror, you see yourself as that football player, and then all of a sudden it's gone, and you go cold turkey, and you go and search for other things, and the camaraderie of the guys in the locker room. All of a sudden, you don't have those guys to go talk to. I mean, you're sitting at home and you got your dog and you got your wife and maybe some little kids, but
your cat.
Yeah, you don't have. I didn't have
Cats
Bill. I didn't have a bunch of guys to go talk to. So then you go and try and you find friends to hang around with, and sometimes you don't find the best friends. So those things you just kind of get lost, and then eventually you kind of work your way through that in your life, and hopefully without too much damage. Right. But it's and like Bill said, I mean, there was nobody there to counsel you and say, hey, listen, this may happen or that might happen, and this is an answer for this, and try not to do that.
Go figure it out.
And for us, it was just go figure it out. And a little like Bill, one of the things that Mike Webster, I had a really horrible experience one time at a game, and he saved me. He basically, said, listen, I'm not going in there and playing. I believe in this guy. You put him in. I'm not playing anymore. And when he died and passed away, I felt so guilty.
Well, all those things that occurred
God
going
to
up
him
to the time he passed away.
Yeah, he was homeless.
When we were.
And we didn't know anything about it. I mean, and I felt like, that was I should have known.
This is Mike Webster, former Pittsburgh Steelers great, Hall of Fame center or whatever, and then he came to Kansas City at the end of his career and was really in a bad way.
So I had the opportunity to do some, play-by-play or some color stuff. But I said, I'm gonna go on the other one. I'm gonna go coach and give some kids an opportunity to use football as a vehicle to go to college or to maybe go on the NFL and like Bill Mike did for me. Mike, he gave me that opportunity when I was at the lowest of low. Just lost my dad. I was going through some tough times, and he was there. So I said, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah. And Bill was wonderful at doing his stuff, and I was lucky to be good at the stuff I did, and it helped. Yeah, it helped. I mean, it doesn't fill that void, but it helps. Yeah,
and then your transition was good. You stayed right with the game and in broadcasting at that point, right?
Right. Yeah. And like I said, but you do it. And you put your work in and do it, your preparation, but it doesn't come close to what Tim explained coming out of the tunnel and that rush that you're addicted to it. I mean, and it was a lot of post-traumatic stress syndrome, right? I mean,
absolutely.
Walking out the door and have that cold turkey end after something you've been doing since you were a young man.
Right.
Yeah,
and nobody told you it was PTSD. No, we didn't even know those initials before. We didn't know about anything,
and they still don't care about it to this day for us anymore.
Yeah, right. Really for the NFL players, it's still pretty tough. It's still a sticking point as far as the NFLPA is concerned.
And 90% of the guys that pass away now that donate their brain, they see that there's all kinds of issues going on, and I'm sure we both have that. And it's something that we have to be cognizant of. And I didn't know how to deal with it.
Right.
And I know Bill didn't know how to deal with it. And thank God that we had people in our lives that cared and finally just put their foot down and said, hey, listen, this is what I need you to do. I need you to, grow, basically grow up, and let's get past this. And it took some time.
Let me talk to you both about this since we're on this subject. I was going to say it for a little later, but do you worry about your longevity? About
When
you see
Bill
a
looks
lot
at
of
me and
guys
he
in the
says,
NFL.
when Bill looks at me and says, your hand's shaking.
You're sitting like this.
I'm like,
did you guys think about it, or do you or is it sort of like football, your day to day, and it's not going to happen to me? But you see so many guys around you, your age, especially you, Bill, that your age that are gone, and they've died early. The early onset dementia, because concussion syndrome and all that sort of stuff. Do you worry about that?
Yeah, I do. I think about it more now that I'm in my 60s than I did before, and I lost a lot of former players that were younger than me along the way here, and so I do. And some of the guys that I played with and that I see how they're slipping,
deteriorating.
In different ways. But I'm always thinking about it. And of course, we both got new hardware in our bodies.
Yeah.
Right?
Can't get through the security system at the airport very well. Yeah.
I mean, so, you worry about those things because we were pretty tough on our bodies.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was, especially with Marty. I'm not sure about Gans and that crew. You were with Makovic and Gans and that crew. But Marty was, hitting all the time, hitting 3-4 days a week, full pad, scrimmaging, banging each other, let alone just practice day in, day out. Tim, what about you? And I know you both, I think the greatest thing about both of you during this, before Tim answers, is you've stayed active. You've kept your brain working, which I think has really helped both of you.
Yeah, and you try to do as much as you possibly can mentally and physically. Try to work out, try to do things, and to keep yourself mentally and physically well. But I worry about it all the time. And you think about hey, I forgot this, or drove away again without taking the gas out of the gas tank, and the hose is flopping around behind me. I'm like, did I forget that again?
There's all kinds of stuff.
Oh, the phone.
How about this? Where the hell did I park?
Yeah, or where's my phone? Okay, where is my phone?
And
my phone.
You go and talk to people, and you're like, I don't remember where I park. I drive away all the time with gas hoses sticking out of my tank. I can't remember my kids' names, and they're like, that's normal. I'm like, oh, okay.
How many times do you get in the car and start driving and forget where you're going?
Where am I going? Yeah. I used to do that in the house.
And there's a pause. Oh, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. I'm in the house. I go from the bedroom to the living room, go, why did I come out here?
And for me, too, now, it's not that I don't know where I'm going. I just forget how to get there. I'm like, do I turn out? Where am I?
Yeah.
I get
God
lost.
for Waze.
And then I put in Waze. I'm getting Waze in to go to the local gym. It's like, I don't know where the hell I'm at. So you worry about all those little things. But you just gotta just keep on sawing wood. Yeah.
Well, okay. Before we get to the end of this whole thing, which one of you two hung Kevin Keatsman over the balcony on the second floor of Sports Radio 810 WHB? That's
an urban legend. He was so fat back then. There's no way anybody could hold his big fat ass off there.
Did you dangle him?
You know what? I didn't dangle him, but I think I did pick him up.
I think you were picked him up beside the thing.
Yeah.
It was a threat.
It was a threat. Yeah. You sort of just bear hugged him and lifted him.
Bill and I were we were our own little clique back then at the 810.
Oh God, yes.
And obviously you were kind of the go-between for everybody.
No, I was supposed to be the guy in keeping us out of trouble.
You didn't do a very good job.
No, I really didn't, because in the early days of 810, we would take any kind of advertising we could get.
Yeah.
Okay, and of course there were some gentlemen's clubs here in Kansas City that were ready, willing, and able to get on the only all-sports radio station in Kansas City. And, well, whenever they had a superstar come in town, we'd have the young lady into the studio, talk about her deal. And then we had a suggestion, maybe we should put a stripper pole in here. And I just went, well, maybe we shouldn't. So I go home that day. We'll get to you in a minute. Okay? I go to work that day right out of there. I go home and get changed. I go to work. And I see a note Magruder wants to see. He's our GM, right? He's the general manager. I'm going. I know what happened earlier in the day. I'm going. Oh God, I just lost my job. So I go in to see Magruder, and he says, "Can you shut the door?" Because the secretary sat right outside, and she was always had her ear perked to see what was going on in the room. So I shut the door, and he goes, "You like working here?" I'm serious. That's the way I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, we like having you." He said, "Do you like doing that radio show in the morning with those with those two?" And I said, "You know what? I sort of do. I really love it. I think it's good. It's great cross promotion." He goes, "Stripper pole?" He goes, "Here's the deal. From now on, if you have one of the ladies in, you can excuse yourself from the studio and let Tim and Bill interview the young lady." So I said, "Okay." Walked out the door, and that was it. Bill?
We had some wild interviews, not just women. I mean,
know.
from all different realms of everything.
Oh, God,
I mean, one thing we did for sure is we crossed over into our audience into a huge female base. Do you remember all the female callers?
Oh, yeah, we had a lot of female. Yeah, we did.
Oh, my gosh.
We did. That show was really popular.
Yeah.
That show, we had great ratings on that show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a good time. Yeah, that was fun.
It was a lot of fun, and once again, that you talk about looking for something to fill that void. That did for a while. That helped to fill that void.
It did too, because you could talk to people again. We took phone calls. We did all kinds of stuff. Yeah, so it was fun. And always the one we always talk about is poor Davey B. Dave Borchard, who now works with the Greater Kansas City Sports Commission, and Kathy Nelson. They do such wonderful work. Davey B found out real quick after Crunchtime that, maybe I don't want to do this anymore, because it'd always be Bill or Tim calling Davey B or texting him at 5 a.m. in the morning going,
or together.
Davey, listen, can you find a best of to put on? Because we're not going to make it today. Davey he worried until we hit the air, because you guys both came in. You'd come in right on, and I'd always yell, "Oh gosh, I'm late. I'm getting." Bill always just told me, "You're not late unless we've already been on the air. Okay, we've already gone on the air. You're not late, Pudge." You always go, "Pudge, you're not late. Okay, we haven't gone on the air yet. Settle down. Everything will be just fine." But Davey B would panic. Yeah, we had a great time. That show was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of fun. But Howard Stern was doing his show back then.
Oh,
and,
sure.
That was kind of the way.
It was the kind of way it was.
Yeah.
All right, Billy, talk. I know you work for Block and Company now, and you're doing some great things out there and staying active again.
Yeah.
You're working. You're not in broadcasting anymore for all practical purposes. You do still. Here's the other killer. Okay, wait before we stop here. The other deal was you're at 810 for about 2 years and 2 months. And all of a sudden, "Oh, we're leaving." I said, "What do you mean you're leaving?" I said, "Well, we're going. We're going over to the other radio
deal, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was part of it.
It was part of it. It was all
part
of it, yeah.
I just listened to what Bill told me to do.
Yeah.
And then there was
Oh, he's going to blame Bill.
I blame it Bill for this one.
yeah, and then Jason too. Now that had a big swing in it.
Yeah, and then by the time I got in the air, they both left. So then I was there by myself.
Yeah, you're all over there by yourself.
Yeah.
But here is the most interesting. This will tell you more about you two than anything. You both end up back on 810. I want to know how, if I'd have done that, I'd have been blackballed from broadcasting the rest of my life. You two, it's okay.
That's because we're cuddly.
Chad,
we're really cuddly bears.
Chad, come on over here. Give me a hug. It's all. We're going to put it all behind us. It was war at that time, but that was funny. And you're
that
back
says
on 810.
more about Chad.
Yeah, it might.
That's right.
It might. Yeah, by Chad Boger, our owner. Yeah, absolutely. And you did the same thing.
Yeah, so
you were gone longer though, right?
I was gone longer. I stayed with 610 for probably about 6 years.
Yeah, you did. You did the show
and
by
then,
yourself.
and then became the head coach over at Miege. They eventually said, "Hey, listen, we'd like to have you in the building." I became a teacher. I'm Forrest Gump, man. I've worn lots of shoes. I've been a theology teacher.
Hold on, that's the best.
Yeah,
you
Old and New Testament
theology teacher.
Yeah, and
teaching children religion.
Unbelievable stuff,
Bill. Teaching children religion.
They need more of it. I'd take them right now.
So, but worn lots of different shoes. But, listen, once again, this show is very apropos. Kansas City has been great for me. It's been great for my family. My kids are Kansas Cityans through and through. I've lived here in Kansas City longer than I've ever lived anywhere else. Yeah. I'm a Kansas Cityan. And people always say, "Well, why'd you stay in Kansas City?" Well, a couple reasons. Number one, is that the people here are just awesome. Whenever you ask somebody from Kansas City to help you out, whether it's a charity or you need something personally, they're always there for you. And number two, made a lot of great friends, including you two, that I just couldn't live without. So it's a great place to be, great place to live, and I think the show is going to be great, Frank, because there's so many great things about this little town, this little cow town that people call flyover country, the black hole. And it's just an awesome place to be living, and an awesome place to raise kids.
Yeah, Bill, you could have gone back to Philly. You could have gone Pittsburgh. You could have gone to Florida.
Right.
Could have gone to California. Could have gone anywhere, but you stayed too.
I remember John Madden used to tell me, he goes, "You can live anywhere in the world you want, and you're in Kansas City." I'm not kidding you. No, he did. I told him, I said, I love the place. It's great. And Tim's right. It's the people. And, what has happened in the transition over the last 20 years to the city is just amazing. Putting themselves on the map in such a big way, and there's so much more coming. I know of so many other developers that are coming here. They're doing things, stuff we're going to be doing up north, stuff that's going out south, more stuff out east. The growth is just unbelievable, and it has so much to offer. You used to be able to go, well, no one wanted to go downtown. There wasn't anything to do downtown Kansas City. And that transformation in and of itself has been remarkable. The Kauffman Center, the new arena,
airport.
We're going to probably eventually have a new baseball stadium.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about
Okay, we won't talk about that right now.
But I mean,
it's all positive, Bill.
I'm just talking about the Royals in general.
Yeah, right.
There's just so much going on, and it's really cool to be a part of it and watch the city grow. And I felt like I've grown with it all along here. So just like Tim said, I've lived here longer than any place else in my life. I'm in Kansas City.
Yeah, it is the people. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And we're gonna explore that. It won't just be sports guys, but I can't tell you how much it means to me that you two were on the first one. And because we all have, the three of us have a long history together, and it's been great. Usually the former players don't get along with the media very well.
I don't think we got you fired in the first episode.
I don't think so either. I think we're going to continue on with these conversations.
I think Bill and I are a kinder, gentler Grunhard and Maas.
Really?
Yeah.
Might have to have you back. Yeah?
Yeah, that's going to cost you.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Well, folks, thanks. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you get your podcasts, okay? Tell your family and friends, because you know what? There's just something about it.